Okay, so hello everybody. I am James Proctor. I'm the Programme Manager for Community Share Scotland. We're doing a little presentation here on Good Friday. And I say that just because things can change quickly. So it was recorded on Good Friday, and we're going to go through governance issues primarily for community benefit societies, covering the FCA and also Oscar stuff as well. So okay. So going to, once I drop this little menu down, there we go. Going to go through relationship with members, go through what is pertinent for all community benefit societies is the FCA filing information and just an update on where they are and what their expectations are and what your obligations really are. Go through the charitable BENCOM, so if you've got charitable status, you've also got to do filings to Oscar as well. So we'll go through that. A little bit on the support that CSS can offer, other support, and I've got some links to people like COPS UK and that in there who provide some excellent information that you might be able to use too, and just any other issues we can kind of cover off. And as I say, this really covers governance. We are largely staying away from other issues around the business resilience schemes and sick pay and all these things. I do another little briefing kind of ready for that. So we've sent a briefing out on governance already, and we've got another one to go on kind of links in particular to more business related issues and employment. So, you know, if you do want to have a chat about that afterwards, we will do. Okay, so first thing to remember is that you are member organisations, and as member organisations, you've got both the blessing and curse, I suppose, of you have got lots of people there who might well be interested in what you're doing. The blessing is that I think what we've seen is that a fair degree of people, if they're able to do so, are certainly willing to rally around and assist. Obviously, it does mean you have to actually, you need to get in touch with them, and so keeping them informed, you need to sort out how you're going to kind of do that. So first of all, in terms of being a member organisation, the key thing is to keep people informed. The biggest problem you're going to have, and I recognise this as a society secretary, where maybe 10 or 20% of our membership are probably not online and not even convinced we've got email addresses for them, is really still how to stay in touch with them. And bottom line is that you're just going to have to make your best judgment about whether you can get things out to them and how you're going to get things out to them. Obviously, the postal system is still working. That is still an option, but the ability to get things out is a challenge. But whatever you can do to keep them informed, keeping your website updated, dropping people emails, that kind of stuff, that would be obviously the best thing. And if you've got any particular problems, I know from getting feedback from a couple of societies that when they've had problems, they have thrown it out to their membership, and it's amazing obviously what's come back, and they are interested in what you're doing, and they will likely want to help to see you through this. I realise that the societies that we've helped over the past 4 or 5 years are all quite different, and work in different areas, from shops to harbours to distilleries and to renewable energy. So there are lots of different issues that can come up, and we'll certainly do our best to help where we can as well. But yeah, certainly members and they're being local has obviously been a huge help. Sourcing things has been fantastic kind of work they've been able to do. Board communication and decision making, I think that's the other kind of key part to this. Of course, you want to keep your members involved. You want to make sure that they understand what's going on and any challenges that you're currently facing, and anything you might have changed in terms of your service in order to try and help out. But yeah, your board communication is obviously the absolute first stop. Make sure your board are able to be in touch with each other. Things like Zoom meetings, video conferencing is all fine and well, but I mean, some people will just, only have the ability to maybe do telephone conferencing too. So, anything you can do to make sure your board can kind of maintain integrity, people can get along to that and can be involved in the decision-making process. You can go through the usual kind of processes. I know there's a temptation, I suppose, would be to kind of just make, quick decisions, but if there are things that really need to be made at a kind of board level, then try to make sure that they are made with a kind of full board or the majority of the board in place to be able to kind of do that. And as with all board meetings and decision making, keep minutes, keep records, do your best to make sure that that's all you've got a clear record of when you've made decisions and who's been there and what's what's going on and why that decision's been made. And that would just be, you know, normal, standard, good governance. The only difference is you may not be meeting around the table now. You may be on a conference call or a telephone or video. So get to the guts of things. The FCA, so all community benefit societies will file with the FCA, and I've done this slightly back to front, but actually the annual return part is probably the most kind of important. So obviously to file your annual return, you would normally need to have obviously your accounts kind of done, but let's touch on the annual return first. So standard issue, annual return is due 7 months from the year end, and that would need to be with the FCA by that. Now, the key thing to say is that you do not need to have an AGM in order to sign off your accounts. The AGM effectively would confirm or scrutinise them, and obviously, you know, best practice would be to have an AGM and have them go through that process. But as a standard matter of course, even without the current issues that we're dealing with, an AGM is not required in order to sign off your accounts. Your board can sign them off. And you can, as a standard, file them electronically. FCA are, like most organisations now, largely working not from their base and from home, and therefore actual paper copies, I don't think there's any guarantee the kind of quickness and speed of which they're picking them up, if at all. So if anything can be filed electronically, then do so. And I'll touch on the mutuals portal at the end of this little kind of section. Now, what they have said, I suppose the key difference here is that they have put out information and advice, guidance that says that they will not take action on returns that are overdue up to June 2020, and they will then subsequently review this. So effectively, I guess if your annual return was due in April, you know, they're not expecting you necessarily to get that to them till what, July, so May, June, July. So, you know, you're going to have sort of 3 months extra effectively to do that, where they're not going to be taking much, you know, they're not going to be chasing you for it. And it may well be, as we get to June, obviously, depending on circumstances, they may take a view that they want to extend that. Obviously, if things have cleared up a bit and they feel that people should be having the chance to kind of have meetings and sign off on the annual returns, then they may well start to look at that. But that is their decision to make. And so right now, if your annual return was due now, and you've not been able to kind of sign off on it because you've not got accounts ready, you've got a kind of at least a 3 month grace period. And I suppose the kind of rule of thumb here is you can make your best efforts to apply to the current, you know, legislative, 7 months from the year end. If you can do that, great, go ahead, get it done. There's no reason to kind of delay. But if you are going to be have a bit of a problem with that, then obviously they are going to be more sympathetic to the fact that it's very difficult to do right now. So that covers annual return. AGMs, so first thing to do is check whether you actually do need to have an AGM. I mean, again, matter of good practice, you would be expected to have an AGM, but as far as the legislation is concerned, it's not in the legislation that you have to have an AGM. That said, your rules themselves might say you need to have an AGM, and I would expect that they probably will, having seen copies of COPS UK and other rules prior to this. So there's every chance you are supposed to and you're required to have an AGM. But once again, if you can't have it, or if you're trying to think about having it electronically and you need time to kind of organise that, then, you know, no one's going to be necessarily chasing you on this. The key thing is that, you know, do your best to keep your members informed of what you're doing. If you cannot have your AGM in the standard period, and your rules say they can, the FCA aren't an organisation that's going to necessarily chase you for that. That's not really their role. Their role is more about the regulation as regards annual returns. What they are interested in, so they're not really interested in that, and they're not really a dispute mechanism either. It's really going to be about whether your members are happy with you delaying that or not. So keep your members informed as best you can, with all the caveats about how on earth you get in touch with members who currently are not on email and can't be contacted electronically. Now, obviously, AGMs would also have things that would normally be fairly standing items, standard business. So elections, maybe application of surplus profits, and then things like an audit exemption and appointment. Now, elections can be delayed. Again, I think, you know, given the kind of unprecedented circumstances we're in, I think making a reasonable case to members that actually that needs to be delayed to see yourself through the next little period is not unreasonable. Obviously, if you wanted to do elections and do it by electronic means, there are ways to kind of do that. but you know, that's a choice that you've got to make. And then other issues around surplus profits and then audit exemptions, again, given the unprecedented circumstances, we would suggest that that's not going to be a big issue. If you're 3 months into your 6 months into your year, and you can then hold your AGM to get the exemption from any audit, then I'm sure that that would be fine. Now, again, things like audits or independent examinations will be defined by your rules. So just be clear about what your rules suggest in terms of their requirement for you to be audited, or whether you can hold an independent examination. Which takes us on to the annual accounts themselves, and I don't have really a fantastic insight into how you're going to do this. The first thing I think is going to be that you're going to need to check with any, your accountant or who might audit your accounts, or bring them together in the first instance and chat to them about what they're doing. I've seen plenty of examples of accountants who are, of course, still trying to do business as usual, and the best they can do everything electronically. But again, we have such a range of circumstances for you guys that the key thing would be to get in touch with your accountant. But I go back to the issue around the annual return. I mean, if you can get your accounts done, then you can file electronically. If you can't get your accounts done, the FCA are not going to be chasing you to get that annual return. But obviously, they're looking for you to kind of at least have made your best efforts, and for there to be reasonable cause for you to be delayed. I suspect they're not going to be chasing people that quickly, even if even once they go back to that kind of normal period. But anyway, again, that's for them to decide. Last thing then on the FCA is just to kind of flag up the mutuals portal. You can see the website address there. Now, the problem is that, and I've signed up for this because I'm both a secretary of a society and also as a sponsoring body now, we've filed new community benefit sites using their portal, and that's great. Problem is, you've got to sign up for it in the first place, and then you usually have to link yourself to an organisation. And historically, certainly as far as I'm aware, what they then do is send you a letter out to your registered office, which you subsequently have to go collect, and it comes with a password, and then that allows you to then get access. And that's, I think, when I registered a good year or so ago, that was taking a good 2 or 3 weeks for them to send that out. Now, if that's still the case, it's going to be a question of whether you've still got access to your registered office. For some people, it's great, it's a home address. For others, it's some office somewhere. So that could be a challenge. So I really just flag that up as the portal is actually pretty good for making, and there's not a lot of filing you have to do with the FCA either as a community benefit society. So, if you are signed up to it and you are able to use it, then that annual return is relatively straightforward to send through and upload your accounts to. But if you've not already done it, then there might be a slight hassle factor in getting updated on that. What I have, I sent an email to the FCA, to their contact, a guy called Ian Adderley. He's unfortunately off on holiday right now. If I get a response from him, so basically my question was, are you still sending us out by post? I suspect it will be. That's the only way they can probably verify that they sent it to the right person, and nobody's, kind of trying to link themselves to an organisation that they're not linked to. But, we'll see. And as soon as I get a response to that, I'll kind of send it out and pop it out by email, or make sure that's kind of available to people. Okay, so that's FCA. Now, for some of our community benefit societies, they will also be charitable. If you're not charitable, you can ignore this bit. Nothing to file on this, but if you are charitable, then you should be aware of it, and just how these two things slightly interplay. First thing is the annual return. My understanding is that has to be 9 months from the year end, so you've got an extra couple of months than you would have with the FCA. Their response to this is to say that they are looking for an understanding and proportionate response, and that's a kind of direct quote from their information and advice. So again, I suspect, well, I know from what they've said, they are not going to be chasing people who are late. They had a little issue, I think, that they've got, that it might flag you on their system as being late. I think we're trying to resolve that. That was about a week ago I last saw that information, and I don't think it's changed. But even then, that's not going to cause much of a problem. The issue in the first hand is, again, make reasonable efforts to be able to kind of file with them. And if you can't file with them, then they're going to be understanding and have a proportionate response to that. And I suspect, like everybody else, this is going to be an ongoing review as kind of things develop. Again, you can file electronically with them, Oscar Online, and I've kind of put the web address up there. Let's have a wee look if I can pop onto this. Just give you a quick look. I don't know if you can see that. There's Oscar's. That's kind of what it looks like. That's the portal for them, and just a quick look as well. That's the FCA's Mutual Societies portal with my username, but not my password. So you can kind of see what it looks like. So you can kind of maybe know that you're on the right page. Okay. In terms of AGMs, now the little issue I've kind of got here, I suppose, annual accounts, is that I'm not clear, and my understanding, the limits of my understanding, is whether annual accounts for a charity would need AGM approval. I suppose I'm suspecting that they would, but then without looking at the FCA's advice, I probably would have suspected they would too. So you might need to go and check with Oscar and look at their advice. I couldn't find it, and I'm sorry about that. But whether actually they would expect annual accounts to have gone through an AGM and gone through members, or whether, again, like the FCA, that board approval are fine. Obviously, if it's board approval, it's a lot simpler. If you need an AGM approval, and it's likely that unless you're going to do an online AGM, then you're going to probably have to delay that. Again, AGM, they're happy if that can be held electronically. If that works for you guys, then that's fine by them. The issue, and I suppose the issue is also with FCA filings and any other regular AGM, is just to make sure you core it. So you'll have in your model rules usually something like 10% or 20 members or something like that. You'll have a clause in there that says what the quorum is for your AGM. So you just need to go through that process again. Obviously, like any membership organisation, you want to be able to try and include people as much as possible. But in present circumstances, that might be a challenge. So Oscar, pretty much similar to the FCA, they're definitely going to take that kind of proportionate response. They're not going to be chasing people up. They understand the difficulty of the situation. It's pretty much an evolving one, and I suppose as people go through that process, we might be able to kind of learn how others have managed to achieve it and still kind of keep things on track. But record. Get the board to record minutes. Any decisions made, keep them recorded. Make sure they're available, and keep in touch with your members. Okay, so in terms of Community Share Scotland and our support, we were quite keen, for clients that we've certainly helped in the past, to make sure that you had some information. We understood there's lots of places you'll get information from. We're not trying to flood you with it, but we just wanted to kind of open that kind of line of communication and kind of reach out to you. And if you thought that we can help in any way, then we're more than happy to. So if you've got issues around comm stuff, your board or your members, we can have a little chat to you about some of the stuff we use and what we've gathered from other people, what works and what doesn't. You may well be well on top of that already, and that's fine. But if we can help, if you wanted to kind of just have a wee chat with us, we're more than happy to do so. Raising finance, obviously this may be an issue around issues of cash flow or what you're doing in your services or how you're going about things. 3 issues then, I suppose, is shares and bonds. Well, bonds probably not something we're going to be using very much of, but you can do community share issues and community bond issues with the same kind of dispensations from regulation. I suppose maybe the key thing for you guys is that as organisations who've done share issues in the past, is you may be able to open up your existing share offer. Now there's a process you're probably going to have to go through in order to do that, so it's not straightforward, but we would be able to help with that, and we're certainly happy to support if you think that that's a way that might help you to bring in cash. Now obviously you've got to make judgments about, is that capital going to be used well in your organisation and your community business, but that's something to consider. Also, the key difference is going to be if when you did your original share offer, there was effectively no members and you were able to kind of put it out. Now you have members, so you need to basically include them in that process, make sure that they are content with what you're doing. But given the circumstances, I could see how that could happen. Crowdfunding and donations. So obviously we've got a bit of experience of using kind of various platforms. Again, if it's something that you'd like to know a bit more of, we're happy to talk it through. We've got no massively special insight into these things other than having used them a few times ourselves, and obviously some share issues have gone on to platforms like Crowdfunder and FX, but obviously there's loads of donation platforms out there, Just Giving and plenty of others as well. But if you want to have a wee chat with us about doing that, that's fine. And then the little one just to add to that is the pre-selling. We noticed that Crowdfunder, the platform Crowdfunder, is kind of doing a pay it forward thing, I guess, which allows people to effectively pre-sell their goods or services, bring the money in now, and then provide that good or service at a later date. And I think they're doing that with minimal or no fees. So again, something to look at if that works for what your organisation is currently doing. It's relevant to some, not so relevant to others. So that's in terms of finance and kind of bringing money in. Obviously, as I say, we're going to do a little briefing report on other issues around where some other resilience funds and support funds for kind of regular business might fit into community business, and that'll go out either later this afternoon or over the weekend. But you know, happy to kind of talk about that too. Governance reporting, that's what we're kind of talking about just now, and kind of talking our way through. And then general business support, as I say, I've just sort of kind of mentioned that in terms of we've with our colleagues at DTAS, we've got a link to an HR webinar that was done that takes about an hour, goes through some of the issues around employees and particularly HR and furloughing and all these unfortunate things that people are having to kind of face up to right now. But you know, obviously, if that can ensure that the business keeps going, then that can be an option. So we'll send that out in the next sort of over Easter certainly, and that'll be with you by Monday at the latest. So that's pretty much just me in terms of the stuff we can do. Other support, I'd certainly recommend these kind of 4 areas. Third Sector Hub is where a lot of Scottish Government information is going for any third sector organisation. So that's sort of charitable and any social enterprises. And I'd say community enterprises fits into most of those categories. So have a little look on the Third Sector Hub, and that's kind of constantly updated. So that's why we're not trying to reinvent the wheel by doing anything on our own website. COPES UK, in terms of governance, I've taken a lot of the stuff that I've chatted about today from COPES UK's website. So the coronavirus/governance-members, that's all open to people to have a look at, and lots of information there, and obviously particularly pertinent to community benefit societies and wider co-ops as well. Plunkett Foundation got good stuff, particularly for rural businesses, shops, pubs, that kind of stuff. But yeah, again, we kind of work with them on a pretty regular basis anyway. And again, they've got a fair amount of information out there. Some of it, you know, they are relying obviously are very similar to COPES UK as well. And then the Just Enterprise stuff, they've got some other kind of stuff that goes into more some of the maybe social investment type issues. But you know, lots of information, and to be honest, Just Enterprise is effectively the Scottish Government's social enterprise support, business support programme. So you may well find stuff on there that we've not kind of identified that might be very pertinent to your particular organisation. And that goes in hand, I guess, with the information on Oscar and the FCA as well that I've already given. So some fairly good areas, trying to cut through what is kind of fairly, I guess, confusing and information-laden kind of circumstances to try and find out what's right for your organisation. So I'm going to end there in terms of the formal part of the presentation. This part will be popped up on the website if we can, or we'll link to it, probably somewhere on our YouTube channel. And for those who are here today, we can have a little chat, but thank you all for your attendance.